Hey everybody, what's going on? For today's review, we'll be taking you out on a test drive in the all-new 2012 Ford Explorer Limited EcoBoost. The purpose of our test drive today is to demonstrate the overall road manners of the new EcoBoost in both city and highway driving conditions. Throughout the test drive, we'll be discussing many of the all-new performance details of this new engine, as well as taking a look at a few of the interior creature comforts that this limited trim level has to offer. So, now that we have this new information in mind, let's go ahead and start the engine. We'll take you out on a drive. Our review unit today has the white platinum metallic tri-coat exterior, combined with the pecan or pecan leather interior, and let's go ahead and set you guys up and take you out on a drive. See, this limited model also does come with the new Smart Key Access system, also equipped with the factory remote start. As such, it is also equipped with push button ignition. Put your foot on the brake and hit the button start. As you can see for 2012, and I don't know if you did see it, but Ford has now eliminated the gauge sweep that used to be in the 2011 model. And away we go. Try to keep this drive as smooth as possible, but please do pardon any rough roads that we may run into. Like I said in previous test drives, the roads in this area aren't necessarily the smoothest of surfaces. As a few of you may recall from our previous test drive of the Ford Explorer, this is not the normal engine that the Explorer comes with. The normal Explorer comes with a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 that makes 290 brake horsepower and 255 pound-feet of torque. This new EcoBoost turbocharged inline 4-cylinder is, although a 4-cylinder engine, does have a much broader torque curve. The power output is 237 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. However, unlike its V6 counterpart, the torque curve in this ranges from 1700 RPM all the way up to 4000 RPM. So pretty much no matter where you are throughout the mid-level RPM range, you're pretty much getting maximum torque the whole time. Now, although it is a 4-cylinder, it does equate to some very nice fuel mileage for such a big vehicle. The Explorer Limited EcoBoost gets an average city miles per gallon of 20 miles per gallon and an average highway rating of 28 miles per gallon. Now, to put that into perspective with some of Ford's other vehicles, that's about the same fuel mileage as a fully loaded V6 Ford Fusion. Now, granted, you have to give the Explorer the fact that it weighs over 4,000 pounds. And the Fusion, well, it weighs quite a lot less. So, in this case, that's pretty decent fuel mileage for a 4-cylinder SUV. Now, the 2-liter engine is actually the same exact size as that of the Ford Focus, but like I said, this is the Boost version, or EcoBoost. Now, many people have been asking what exactly was the idea behind the name EcoBoost. Well, of course, eco meaning fuel efficient, and boost, of course, meaning a turbocharged version of the engine. Now, you may be asking, why didn't they use a supercharger? Heaven only knows. I can't can't officially provide you with that information, but I do know that this engine right here has a whale of a lot of power for such a little 4-cylinder engine. Now I should also have you mention that this is a dual overhead cam inline 4-cylinder. This is not a single overhead cam or some kind of lazy little 4-cylinder that you're used to in some of the more compact vehicles. Now as for the interior cockpit where you actually sit, it's absolutely identical to a normal Explorer, for obvious reasons. However, there are a few minor touches. For starters, you may notice down here, if you can see it, the gear selector is not the same thing that you would find in the V6 Ford Explorer. And that is because there is a special 6-speed automatic that has now been calibrated specifically for the EcoBoost Inline 4, so it can handle the power and the torque. Beforehand, it was equipped with a 6-speed select shift automatic with the available select shift manual shifting with the little button on the side of the shifter. This one just has the normal 6-speed automatic, like I said. Now, being the limited model, it is pretty much fully loaded with electronic toys. You have things like the Myford Touch system, which was recently introduced for 2011 and now has continued into 2012 and will continue on to do so as long as Ford plans on keeping it. Now, as far as the center stack goes, everything is very easily legible. Everything on the screen is easily legible. And this one actually has a little more of a touch feel to it. The overall idea behind the Myford Touch system in the beginning was to allow this screen to have a lot more features and everything else, and also to be touchscreen, of course. But in this sense, they've taken the touch feature a little bit further, because this black lacquer finished center stack that we have here is actually all touchscreen. Literally, you can just touch an icon and that's all you have to do. You don't have to push on any buttons or turn anything or anything of that sort. The only thing that you will even have to remotely move, in a sense, is this little wheel here in the center, in which the outer rim can be used to turn up or turn down the volume. And that's basically it. So say, for instance, it's got a pretty hot day out today. It's 102 degrees according to the thermometer on our dashboard here, so we want to turn the climate control on. All you have to do is simply, well, in this case the climate control is already on, but you would touch the little climate power button and hit the maximum air conditioning, and there you go. Then your manual fan override is down here. It's the center toggle switch at the bottom of the console. And also, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a little word up here called Sony. Now, this limited model with the Myford Touch system does come with a 10-speaker Sony premium sound system. Actually, I take that back. It's 12 speakers, not 10, including factory subwoofers in the trunk. And it actually does bump pretty good. Let's see if I can tune it to a nice little radio station here before we actually crank it up. Of course, you also have your sound options, which is a simple touch of the sound button here. It allows you to turn up and adjust the bass, mid-level, and treble. Now, first impressions for many people when they see the word EcoBoost on any of Ford's new vehicles is most likely going to be referring back to the V6 twin-turbo that is now gracing a few of Ford and even Lincoln's vehicles. Examples include the MKS EcoBoost, the Taurus SHO all-wheel drive, the Flex Titanium, and now the Ford F-150. Now, the things are that the F-150s have 365 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, and that's coming from a 6-cylinder engine. So Ford is gradually bringing up the game in multiple of its EcoBoost models. Now, as far as the ride quality goes, the Explorer rides very nicely on pretty much any surface you can think of. The only unfortunate side to this new EcoBoost inline 4-cylinder is the fact that it is not available in 4-wheel drive. It is only available in a front-wheel drive version. However, if you do decide to get a little bit adventurous and go off-road, The four-wheel drive version with the new traction management system, which is a little knob down here where this little cup holder thing would be, is available with a V6. Now in that situation, the four-wheel drive version does get 2 less miles per gallon than its normal V6 counterpart, which is front-wheel drive as well. The V6 front-wheel drive gets 18 miles per gallon city and 25 highway. On the four-wheel drive version, you get 17 city and 23 highway. So you only lose a couple of miles per gallon either way you slice it. Now, I've mentioned it in a couple of videos previously, and I will mention it again now. Being a front-wheel drive vehicle, and even being an SUV, with a turbocharged engine putting out almost 240 horsepower, you would expect massive loads of what's known as torque steer. Now, torque steer is essentially when the front wheels of the car want to take over the steering due to the power output of the vehicle. But as you can see with this new Explorer, as we put our foot down and see what it's like, there is absolutely no resistance in the wheel whatsoever. I'm not having to fight it or anything. Now, some will find that because the Explorer is such a big vehicle and the engine does seem to be a little smaller than usual, that it doesn't necessarily get you up to speed as quickly as you would like. However, bearing that in mind, the fact that this vehicle weighs as much as it does and the engine has as much power as it does, it certainly can surprise even the most sensitive of people. Now, the main reason people are going to buy the new EcoBoost inline 4-cylinder in the Explorer versus getting its V6 counterpart is mainly down to the fuel economy of the Explorer. It's really the best of both worlds if you're a larger family. 7-passenger seating capacity with the optional power folding third row seat, as well as 28, almost 30 miles to the gallon on the highway. Now, that's something hardly ever experienced in an SUV of this caliber. And also, one other thing, most of you Ford fans will certainly say this, it is a far, and I do mean a far cry from the Explorers of yesteryear. Now, granted, many of them, people are still running them 300,000-400,000 miles and still going. These engines, well, they're still yet to be proven. So, we'll have to see what happens a little later on when people start putting the severe mileage on them that they will. Now, in this case, we've got a big lumbering moving truck in front of us, and we kind of want to get out of its, move over a little bit. The EcoBoost certainly does provide a lot of passing power. And the funny thing is that the EcoBoost doesn't have a whole lot of, instantaneous torque, but I will say that it does certainly know how to get down the road in a very nice fashion. Thing, and you might have noticed it, is that the 4-cylinder version of this engine is extraordinarily quiet. And I do mean extraordinarily quiet. I mean, I just put my foot down. We had it going almost 6,000 RPM. And, I barely heard a thing. Granted, you can still hear the engine, obviously, but I didn't really hear this big whirr or any kind of loud, rambunctious engine from up front. So it is an extremely civilized SUV as well, and that's really the overall design of the Explorer's priority. Now, one thing that people may not find nice about it is its price tag. The limited Explorer can reach upwards of just shy of 50 grand. This limited EcoBoost version, and I don't know the exact price tag of this particular unit, but it can probably get to about $48,500 if you're lucky, and that doesn't include tax, title, and license. So in the end, it's probably about 50 grand. other things that I would like to point out just in the short period of time we have before we end this test drive. Many people have always been inquiring about the new Myford Touch system. Now, to put it in short, let me just give you a few tips of how this thing works. Number one, you have this big screen here. Pretty obvious, right? You have 4 separate colored tabs that allow you to access different things. The yellow tab accesses your different phone synchronization, in which it provides a single solitary passkey that you would enter into your phone and synchronize it with the vehicle. You can then have a full hands-free touchpad in which you can dial people, receive text messages and stuff like that. And what's really cool is when you receive a call, it plays through the speakers of the car's interior. The green tab in the upper right-hand corner is for your navigation. The lower right-hand is your blue tab, which is your dual-zone climate controls, and your red tab here in the lower left-hand corner is for your full audio controls. And it can also be controlled with this right side of arrow pads right here. And it controls a right 4.3-inch LCD, of which there are 2 displays up top, one on the left, one on the right. And the one on the right actually synchronizes with your Myford Touch system here in the center. So you really don't have to take your hands off the wheel in order to access all the features of the Myford Touch. The one on the left is simply to display things like average fuel economy, vehicle settings, vehicle warnings, service warnings, and so on. Now, even with all of that said, viewers, sadly our test drive of the all-new EcoBoost Explorer has come to an end. I hope you have enjoyed this test drive of the all-new EcoBoost Explorer. To find out more information about this vehicle, or any of the others that your heart so desires, please feel free to visit FordVehicles.com or visit your local Ford dealer and be pleasantly surprised by the new EcoBoost Explorer. Until then, viewers, stay tuned to Grand Prix GTP02's channel for more reports, reviews, and test drives. And until then, I will see you guys later.